processes, other ways of doing things, other leadership, and they don't know what they don't know. And then you tend to end up in this spiral of not being able to reach out for help because you're trying to fix what's going on, and everyone is running around thinking they know everything about what they need to know about that business, but they don't know what has to happen after or to continue on.
To Gina's point, I would add, it's a nice segue, if you'd like, to thinking about next generation preparations. The best cases I've seen, these are children that are encouraged to hang out at the shop, at the plant when they're young, that they're encouraged to play with the office equipment, that they get to sit in the tractor, that they get to go to Vegas to the trade show, and that when Pop or Mom come home at the end of the day, they don't just bitch about what a horrible day they had. They talk about what a wonderful time they had and how interesting it is and the good stuff that they do. And they create opportunities for those children to understand the responsibilities and meaning of ownership, sometimes by throwing them in the back of the car when they drive to employees' houses to give out turkeys or whatever the heck it is at the holidays. I'll typically ask next-gen members, siblings or groups of cousins, to talk about their earliest and fondest memories of the business. And trust me, they can remember from the time they are 4, 5, 6 years old, they have recollections of the plant, of the business, of you being gone, of you not being gone, of getting to go on a business trip with you. They take opportunities. There's a family in the forestry business that's now in their 7th generation, Laird Norton, up in the state of Washington. Well, they take their youngins, right? Once you reach the age of 13, you're expected to go and spend 2 weeks at a camp that they built with the rest of your cousins. And they do that in order to build a sense of cohesiveness among the shareholder group and positive memories of that. That children are encouraged to hang around the business, but they also have clarity that you don't get a job here after college. You're encouraged to work here weekends, nights, holidays, all the way through college. And then, you know what? No. You can have a job here. I mean, if you just want to work in the warehouse, sure, okay, we'll find work for you because you're emotionally challenged or whatever it is. But if you want to run with the big dogs and you're looking at an executive position, no. 3 to 5 years of outside work experience in an enterprise at least as large as ours. And it would be, and the military doesn't count. And don't laugh. I mean, hey, look, I was gone for 3 years and I was employed. I'm ready. Not so much, right? So 3 to 5 years outside work experience. And when they come in, no, you don't report to a family member. You have to report to a non-family executive, and that non-family executive has got to be wired appropriately, because that is a dangerous job to have. To be a supervisor to the boss's kid is a dip, because that kid may someday be your boss. So, but yet how do you provide them with good feedback? How do you help kids whose name is Culver, right? I mean, hey, let's talk about, think about the Culver's kids. How do they know that they're really qualified? How are they tested? How do they know that their spouse, or the person that they're dating or in love with, that it's not about the money, right? That it's about who they are, not what they are. It's tough, and the thing is that there's lots of good information, and it's not new, and you don't have to invent it on your own.
Let me take the stakeholder a little bit farther than what we've gone so far. We talked a little bit about family members. We talked about those that are interested. We touched on employees a little bit. And so how transparent do you make this with employees, your succession planning? How about your supply base? Where do we go with our stakeholder list? Drew, let me just start with you as a professional that works in this every day. How do you look at setting up a again, kind of an overview. Here are the stakeholders that we really have to interact with. Maybe not the first day we do succession plan, but down the road, as succession gets closer to being a fruition. And who do we bring in? Do we bring the suppliers in? Do we bring the employees in? When do we let them know? That type of thought.
It depends, as I mentioned. It depends.
A true consultant.
No, it really does. It really does. Look, if you're a McDonald's franchisee or a Wendy's franchisee, if you're a Caterpillar or John Deere distributor licensee, they're going to be asking you all the way along because they've got a stake in this. To the degree that your employees are curious because they see that you're walking kind of funny and drooling a little bit and slurring your words, and maybe they're thinking you're not going to be around too long. Yeah, you want to be pretty transparent with them what your intention is. But to the degree that sharing that information would in any way, I think, undermine your competitive advantages, no, I don't think you need to be sharing that information. It's not required if it's going to challenge your competitive advantages. So it really does depend.
Gina, Patrick?
So most of my manufacturing experience is in the aerospace world. Boeing, Airbus, Learjet, they all want to know about your plans.
Sure.
You can shut down, a $300 million airplane by missing a deadline. So if you have a disruption in your supply chain, whether it's people, process, whatever, they care about it. So same thing, just like they're a banker, they have a vested interest, it's their own interest, but they have a vested interest in you being successful to meet their needs. So I think in some cases you're going to be required to share your succession planning and your people planning and your, whether it's financial people, process, whatever. With your employees, again, it goes back to Drew, it depends. Some companies are very open and want everybody to know what the plans are, and there are others that are very, very secretive and don't want anybody to know what they are, whether it's good or bad. It's just what that company feels more comfortable with. I prefer being open. I'm a lean manufacturing expert. I believe everything should be on the table so everybody can make good decisions based on what we know. But not every company feels that way and keep things private. So it really does depend on the culture of the organization and the leaders.
Gina?
Well, I think there's, you have to have a replacement plan for individuals if they do leave your company. You may either, if your exit strategy is going to sell or keep the legacy going, you have a replacement plan with different key people in your organization. So that is one thing that should be shared with everyone, because everyone should know who needs to step into a position. It might be a short amount of time to get the company through whatever has happened, or a longer time. And then there's your succession planning that may not be completely open because of like we spoke, the competitive disadvantage that it may cause if you do let some of your internal planning outward. But I do think that if your succession planning is in line with your strategic planning, then really your top managers will know where you're headed and where you're going. Maybe not your entry-level employees that are coming in working on the dock, but you may not want them to know because they may not have all the knowledge or education to emotionally understand what is going to happen with the company, and they might get fearful of, if they sell, or if they're, they kind of want to know, hey, we're strong, we're stable, we're going to continue on for years and years and years, and I don't want to ever think about it, So that's
Good points, good point. And just to reinforce what Patrick said, with the AS9100, if you're in aerospace, the TS16949 if you're in the automotive industry, you must have business planning as part of your process, and you must have that included in there. And your customer base must also know what your succession plan is going to. So again, depending on what type of industry you're on and where you're at, that becomes a bigger and bigger portion of it. Let me just go back one more time. What about the community you're in? What about the legacy you're leaving? What if you have a very philanthropic company that's been very much involved in the community and with the corporate responsibility and with all those areas, and now it's starting to change? And so what do you have to kind of start winding down? Do you have to start gearing up? Do you have to know they're changing? Some people have been very had their own interest based because you're giving away so much money every year, that type of thing. Where are you with corporate responsibility? Where are you with the community? Where are you on those type of issues? You've been big in the community, especially when you're the only company around.
Well, for us in Harvey, again, we're much bigger than when you think of a family held business. I mean, there's huge family held businesses, I mean, Coke Industries or whatever, they're huge. But being about $2 million organization, we're the second largest employer in Harvey. We have a big responsibility to the community, to take care of the community. And Harvey's a very distressed area. The last time we had the mayor in, he said almost 50% of the houses are either in foreclosure or bank owned now. So again, it's a depressed area by far. So if we pull out the second largest employer next to Ingalls Hospital, their tax base drops dramatically. Then we hire a lot of employees from the area. That drops dramatically. So while we don't have a plan to shut down, you never know when you're owned by private equity. Things can change. You can sell. We can be gone quickly. Not that we ever think that would happen, but again, it's not a family-run business in that way. But if something dramatic happened and some laws change that allow China to produce the same product we do and sell it here, it could change us, and that changes Harvey. That affects Harvey, which is again already in a pretty tough situation. So I think you do have a responsibility to your community to be good stewards of the resources that they've given you, and whether it's people or land or whatever it is. And take care of it. I mean, we meet with the community on a regular basis. It's just our neighbors. We're smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood, a 43-acre industrial complex right in the middle of the neighborhood. We have a responsibility to test the water, test the air. Every once in a while, neighbors will complain of a weird smell or something in the water. We break out our books and show them our EPA logs that track every ounce of water that comes on our property, and every ounce that goes. It's cleaner when it leaves. But we need them to know that we're good stewards of the community, so that they allow us to be there and participate with us. And whether it's succession planning to keep that going, because someone else might run the business differently.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. Any the other panel members want to comment on that?
I find that philanthropy can oftentimes be a glue that holds a family together that had been held together by an operating company previously. So, there is life after sale. And, in those situations in which the owning family is wondering what will be the glue that will hold us together once we've had this liquidity event, oftentimes the family foundation can serve that purpose.
I'd like to go back to a point as we come to the last few minutes of our session here. You've all mentioned strategic planning. That's one of the things we at the Business Center find that a lot of companies don't do well, do poorly, and sometimes don't do at all. It's really due to strategic planning. Even those companies that succeed in spite of themselves. And succession planning and the type of thought that goes into that has to be part of strategic planning. So obviously you would agree that strategic planning is a very important part of companies that want to succeed, and that they bring the objectives, the goals that they have from that strategic planning down into the shop floor, down into the company, down into the sales floor, down into those areas. So tying in strategic planning, I don't assume that succession planning can be done without that. So comments on strategic planning and the tie-in. Drew, let me begin with you.
I think it is critical to appreciate, at least in my experience, that succession planning in a family enterprise, in a multi-generational family enterprise, is absolutely a different breed of cat than the sort of strategic planning process